I always knew I was gay. And to have that off our plate, I'm happy. And I was fine with it. It was the people around me.
When I was a child, I realized that something was different with me, but of course I couldn't name it. And by the time I realized what was actually different with me, I was totally scared.
I grew up in Mauritania, so even before I was aware of my own sexual orientation, I knew what was said about it in families and the culture in school. So I knew very early on that it was undesirable to be gay, and I could, from very early age, I could hear things like, "Don't share a meal with those people," and then later on, I've seen incidents of violence, so people being attacked and ridiculed on the streets for being gay. So very early on, even before I was aware, I knew that it was an undesirable thing.
Hola, mi nombre es Nandín Solís, soy indígena cuna de Panamá, vivo en la ciudad de Panamá, tengo 40 años, me identifico como Megid. O Megid es una identidad muy estrecha relacionadamente con ser una persona transgénero.
I think for a long time I denied it to myself because I grew up in an environment that was very conservative in the French Alps, and was I didn't know anyone who was like that, and there was no visibility. So it was indeed so scary that I totally denied it for years and years.
Growing up, I felt that my opinions and my values were second class to those that were heterosexual. And coming into the UN, I felt that my work and my deliverables, I had to put that extra effort in because I was gay and openly gay. I was delivering and I was doing a good job. However, I was my worst own enemy.
My parents will never accept the fact that I'm a lesbian.
The main fear was really hurting my family and bringing a bad name to a bad reputation, let's say, to my family. I was very worried that I'd lose their love and acceptance. And I was also very worried about people's judgment.
I remember that we were taught already as small children to not use discriminatory languages. I also remember that we even spoke about homosexual men. And still, it took me 19 years and the help of a friend that I realized that the love I had for women was not just a passing phase in my life, but that there was something that I had to reconsider.
I'm a daughter, a sister, I'm also a wife and a mom. Let me introduce you to my family. This is my beautiful wife Margaret and our beautiful daughter Piper, who's very rambunctious. I have dedicated my life to human rights and equality for all people. I really believe that there's no one out there that doesn't want to be respected, valued, and basically be given the opportunity for a good quality of life. I am working for the UN for that very reason. Human rights are at the core of the UN.
But I'm now in a position that's more of a corporate position. I'm not working on HIV or sexuality issues directly anymore. And so my sexuality comes up a lot less often than it used to. In fact, it really only comes up if somebody asks about the photo on the wall behind me, which is my partner, my son, or if people happen to look at my CV, where it's pretty clear I've worked for a long time on LGBT issues. I'm delighted that here at UNICEF, the senior leadership of the organization, like the senior leadership, I think, of the whole UN system, is strongly supportive of including LGBT people throughout the staff of the institutions. But we still have more to do.
It's like being a woman. For example, my mom was not able to vote until I was 14. I was lucky that when I was 20, I had equal vote right. So it shapes the way we look at the world, it shapes the way that we experience the world, and probably it also shaped my commitment to human rights.
It was not until I started to work in the UN that I met colleagues with so many different backgrounds and made me understand that everything is about respect.
Without the support of my friends, my colleagues, especially here at the UNFCCC, and with the help of my wonderful partner, I really made it. And today, I am proud to say that I am gay, and the sun will still shine tomorrow for everyone.
I adopted my first son in 1999, and there was no adoption leave for men. Now, this was a gender issue, and I spoke to HRD, and they said, oh, I guess you're right. Men should have adoption leave. So that was important because gay men adopt children.
In the case of one country office, we brought on a UNV who was transgender. That is, she was born a man but was now a woman. And when it came time to issue her with an email address, the country office in this case thought that the rules of UNDP required that they give her a UNDP email address that identified her with her legal male name, because in her country she's not able to legally change her name. As you can imagine, this caused a lot of practical and personal distress for the individual in question. The country office raised this for us at the regional level, and we engaged in a discussion with UNDP in New York, our human resources people, the people who can make policy around this. And quickly, very quickly, they resolved it to the satisfaction of all. And our UNV in this particular country office was able to get issued an email with the correct configuration identifying her as a female, her female name. And what this says to me is that in UNDP we have come a long way, even though this is a very small example. It shows that in fact we have a conscience about the issues of LGBT and human rights and what these issues mean in a way that perhaps we did not until very, very recently.
Durante mi paso aquí en Naciones Unidas pude experimentar y pude percibir la poca participación de las personas que pertenecen a la diversidad sexual. Quizás para nosotros como personas de la diversidad sexual se nos dificulta muchas veces el acceso a la educación. Por ello, cuando Naciones Unidas hace convocatorias de formar parte de su equipo, muy difícilmente acudimos a ese llamado. Se me brinda a mí la oportunidad y yo creo que con eso doy el ejemplo de que compañeros se sumen a esta iniciativa, ¿no? De que Naciones Unidas también considera a las personas de la diversidad sexual a formar parte de sus equipos.
A lot of people at the fund come from societies that are much less welcoming to gay people, and that is a baggage that you don't leave at the door when you come to the IMF. It's very hard to overcome that, I think, for people who come from those societies.
The United Nations principles of human rights, integrity, diversity, and respect have always been very dear to me, and were the very ones that drew me to working for this amazing organization. But of course, the UN is not perfect. I was open about being gay throughout my career with the United Nations, and in a leadership program in UNDP, I was asked if I could go anywhere in the world. I said yes, but perhaps with the exception of going to a country with Islamic law and death penalty for homosexuals.
It's also interesting that in many cases, I felt that the issue was not me. It was just people reacting to just the subject matter. So people have very deep feelings. So I didn't take it personally always because it's just people reacting to. And there's also a lot of ignorance sometimes. So in what people say, you can sense lack of knowledge. So the one way of dealing with it is to also bring knowledge to the table and get people to say, and then you get them to say, I didn't know this. And, so discussions can have a positive outcome sometimes.
I hope that those people that are watching this might think of the colleagues that are sitting next to them in the next office and maybe they aren't openly gay or lesbian, transgender or intersex, bisexual, and that they have the sensitivity to understand that those staff members also have the same rights as other staff members. I also hope that we provide a culture where staff members that might have difficulties with their sexual orientation or their gender can stand up and feel comfortable and turn to other colleagues like those that are in these videos and themselves understand that they're not alone.
I think it's best to know that everybody is different and to assume that everybody is different and then just to be ready to learn.
I think it's by showing that you are respectful. It's not by saying the right words.
Have courage, and your human rights are fully protected. And people with different sexual orientation themselves, they have a fear in coming out as well as in reaching out with their colleague, staff and friends. I think they should feel free, and I made it quite clear that as a Secretary General, I will make the United Nations as the best workplace where LGBT staff will be able to work freely.